So, as Prof has said, and that's very kind of him. I've known Prof from the time I joined the Department of Physics, as he says, a couple of years ago. Those couple of years ago, not just yesterday, but we'll talk about that. My name is Otieno Paul-Peter. Today, I'm in love with doing leadership coaching. I write blogging, that is on my own website, but then I also have authored 2 books on personal development. I do consultations in business and ICT. I have 2 companies. One is for training, which is called Live Your Dream, through which we are doing this. And then there is another one for provision of hosting services for businesses and organizations. So I also run team building and things like that. But the beauty is I was in Chiromo. So at that point, we share. I was in Chiromo. I joined the university in 2002 on October 7th. October 7th. And I registered to do BSc and chose to specialize in physics. I loved physics. I still do. Many people ask me how or where is the relationship between what I do and what I studied. And to me, I see everything. I've always chosen what to do from the beginning. Even in secondary school, in our school, it was a small school. When I was supposed to choose between, they were trying to put physics to be sort of optional, that biology is compulsory. But I insisted that I don't want to do biology, I just want to do physics. And somewhat we were able to be granted that permission. So I was in Chiromo, and I graduated on the 1st of September 2006. I've loved leadership from my childhood. I've been introduced to, I've attended lots of trainings, and much of my training is, like we would say in physics, through observation. Observing, analyzing situations, and coming up with a theory. That theory, you put it into practice, you try it out, and you find that it works. So from the time I was in class 5, I was made a class prefect. In class 6, I was elected. The first election ever. I did not even know that I was a candidate. I had just gone to a new school. I schooled in very many schools in my primary because we kept moving hither thither. So when we went to this new school, I had just gone in class 5 third term. So beginning the year, they were holding elections. Apparently that's the way they used to pick the students leaders or leaders for the pupils. So I just heard that there was a meeting at around 10, and we assembled, and candidates were presented, and I heard my name being called for my class. I literally have no idea who submitted, but I understand it was one of my colleague pupils. And there were a few others who also volunteered themselves, but everyone voted me, and then all the people who were also my worthy opponents came and lined behind me. Literally, I was just obeying orders. They called me, I went, and that's the way I became. So twice in my life I've been voted unopposed. The other one was when I was in Chiromo, joining second year. I did not even know that in the university people campaign. Again, this time they put my name. I was pushed by a few friends of mine, and I happened to be the only person. Nobody else opposed me, and I was the second year representative for Chiromo for that year. Now, when I joined the university, that very week, I was made the vice chairman for the students' choir at St. Paul's. The following year, I was supposed to be, or they wanted me to be chairman. That would be the youngest, because I was just joining year 2. But I turned it down because I'd just migrated to Chiromo hostels, and those people had also organized to make me chairman for the community. I had no idea. I had never attended that particular service, or I had not interacted with any of those people, but I was active in main campus. But they organized that I should be chairman. I was not informed. So they used to meet on Thursdays. A few people came to my room Thursday evening and asked me to join them for their fellowship that evening. So when I arrived, I realized they had organized election and they made me chairman. Now, the youngest, because I was in year 2, I was not even supposed to be in Chiromo. I had only found my way to be a part of the Chiromo. You know, many people even loved main. I didn't like that noise, but personally. So I preferred to be in Chiromo. And because I was a second year representative, for some reason I got some favors through the hall's administration then. And I was lucky to get that. It wasn't guaranteed. I just requested, and they told me if there will be a room, I will be given, and I was given. And I was made chairman, so I could not pick this one for main campus. The following year, they still retained me as a chairman. So I think in history, I was the first, probably, up to now, to be chairman for 2 consecutive years for that community. And the main campus, I also had to be, because I turned down the previous time. I could not let them down another time. So throughout, generally in a nutshell, I've always been in this leadership and that leadership, and most times many of them. During that time, I was also the Secretary General for all the students from the University of Nairobi who were coming from our constituency. So, but when I reached 3rd year, I left those political leadership positions because they were very taxing. I was involved in lots of things. I had to keep myself in the university because many people thought I was well-to-do. I lived, maybe I grew up in a well-to-do family. But the truth is, I was all alone. I was on my own. Everything I had to survive on in the university, I had to ensure that I get it. I did not have anybody to send me any pocket money. I did not have relatives to depend on. So I was all alone, and my coming to the university was, an opportunity for me. I chose the University of Nairobi as a potential area where I could get some other things to do and sustain myself in the university. So I was not going to rely on anybody, and I'd learned not to rely on anybody from the time I was in class 6. Much of that story will come tomorrow when we'll be discussing about money. Yeah, I started looking for money and working for money and all these other things when I was in class 6. And from that time, I wasn't asking people for anything. I was always looking to depend on myself. Now, I've chosen to be a trainer. I love it, and I think this is something that I identified when I was in class 8. A lot of my fellow pupils in the school where I was didn't make it to secondary school. The question was school fees. I grew up in an area where school fee was hard to come by. The income of the population was relatively low. And most people knew that class 8 was the end. I want to believe probably I'm the only one who've come this far. most of those people ended their studies. And some of them passed fairly well and had to repeat a few times because of fees problem. So at that point, I developed a philosophy that when I grow up, I want to learn what is it that makes some people not to have enough while others live on more than enough. Others live plentifully. Others are hardly surviving. I wanted to understand this concept because around me, I could also see some of the people who had everything they wanted. Yeah? We had to go borrow things. We borrow matchbox, we borrow salt, we borrow unga. And I was wondering, where is the problem in this? So when I saw a good number of my friends dropping, I really felt hurt. And I said, when I grow, one thing I want to find out is what is it that makes some people to be more successful than other people. And that, in the long run, I realized it has a lot to do with leadership. So my career has always been to support people to become their best. And it has everything to do with physics, I tell you. Maybe you will be able to understand along the way. Then, I also have a family. I got married to my classmate. We schooled together from year 1. And that is a story that we will keep saying. So I have a family, I have children. And my first daughter this year went to Form 1. I still look young anyway. If I stood before you, probably you'll still think that I'm in year 1. But I love it like that. I always try to stay fit so that I am 20 years younger. Now, let's go back to the main business of today. This is the entire outline of what we will be discussing for the 2 days. The first 3 bullets we'll do today, and then the second 2 we will do tomorrow. It's a lot of work, but I will be rushing a little so that there is also an opportunity to ask questions and interact a little more if somebody has other things. But in any case, if you have some other questions that might not be answered during the forum, you can always send them to me or you can chat me. I will share my contact, and I should always be reachable. My website is otienopaul-peter.com. It has everything that you will want, including contact and some other materials. Then, of course, you've been told I authored 2 books. One is Live Your Dream in 7 Ds. That is the name of my organization number 1, Live Your Dream. Because I realized that having all your academics and getting all the first class, by the end of the day, right now probably you have very wild dreams. You will not be able to achieve them unless you learn something else. Whatever you're learning is more of hardware. But as we know, people in computing, a computer doesn't operate on hardware only. There is also the software. And the software is now what we are trying to build. If you get this, then you have a chance. It's said that at age 25, many people, if you poll students, you realize that they have very beautiful dreams. They are intending to grow, to achieve much. They can see a very brilliant future. But 40 years down the line, you meet them at age 65, you realize that only one is being successful. That is 1%, 1 out of 100. Only 4 are fulfilled. Yes, but 5 have to work to survive. At age 65, if you have to work to survive, I remember part of what has taught me is back at home, I used to see some old men who had to go work in people's gardens. They're old, but if they don't work in people's gardens to be given some little food or money, they don't survive. If they get sick, people have to contribute. I want to believe you do not want to be such a person. So I realized that this which is left out of academics is what will bridge the gap between what you are, what you're going to achieve uh, in college and your dreams. Because after getting all your grades right, thankfully you're already in leadership. You need to up your game in leadership so that you're able to live your dreams. So that is a lot about what we are going to discuss. It's a lot of material, but we will try to run as fast as possible. I know your university material, and by the way, congratulations for being in the University of Nairobi, the only university north of Rio Limpopo and south of Sahara. It's not a right. We used to say it's not a right, it's a privilege. There are so many other universities. We used to call them bypass universities, just to ease the congestion in the main university, the mainstream university, the University of Nairobi. So you will be able to grasp quite a bit. And I'm not mostly interested in what you will put down in your notes, because you may not even go back to them. But I'm interested in what you will write in your heart, so that you can keep them with you, teach them to other people, and hand them down. Because this, in my view, is something that is most crucial for your survival, for your success, for your future, as you will be able to say. Now, we're going to start with the first, and that is self-awareness and personal branding. Prof preempted some of the things. Yeah, he's been in leadership for long. Probably now you have some hints on what we will be discussing, but it's all about self-awareness. The question is, why self-awareness? I wish somebody could tell us what is this all about. Maybe Lucy can identify somebody to talk about that, to share what they think is self-awareness and why we need it.
I'm Danyi. Humphrey, are you there? Hello? People are disappearing. Humphrey.
Maybe they are
present, madam.
And they need to unmute. Yeah.
Are you getting what the presenter is asking? Did you get what he's asking?
Yes, I'm getting.
Yes,
It's
I would like to.
It's asking about self-awareness.
Yes.
And can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can hear you.
According to my understanding.
Yeah.
According to my understanding, for the nice introduction.
Yeah.
I believe we're going to learn a lot. According to me, self-awareness is actually to discover your capabilities, to be aware about the things that you are able to do well, the things that you are able to handle, or rather to do what you're good at. Let's look at getting it off that. But being self-aware, not to be able to do things you're able to do well without any pressure. Maybe some other guys around here, we have a lot of big brains in the page, but that is my view.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If somebody wanted to say something, Brian Keegan. Brian. Brian Keegan.
Can I say something?
Yes, hello.
Yes, speak.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning,
Yeah,
Brian.
according to my understanding. Hello.
Yes, speak up. We're getting you.
According to my understanding.
Yes.
Yeah, according to my understanding, I think self-awareness, according to where we usually, as equity leaders, we usually have a mentorship where we mentor the young ones who are the wings to fly. And we used to tell them, Self awareness is simply ashta kujijua. Yeah.
Good, thank you, thank you. Yeah, maybe we can just go on. Good to hear from you. Two people, the two students, Humphrey and is it Kevin or somebody? Thank you very much. Now, self-awareness. Today what is happening in our surrounding, we see people breaking down. We are going through what I've always called a generation breakdown. There is a generation that can't handle problems, can't handle pressure. And so we see people who, subjected to certain pressure, they break down, they commit suicide, they are getting into mental illness, they just don't understand how to handle things. And the problem is they don't know about themselves, they don't know about their capabilities, they don't know their values, they don't know much about themselves, to the extent that they put their frustration on anything. Some of those people get into family life and they are always at loggerheads, domestic strife and things like that. You'll realize that people grow to the level of reaching what others admire. They are heads of institutions, they are heads of various places, they are respectable leaders in all domains, but by the end of the day you realize that, or you find out that they gave up in life, they died, they jumped off the wall or something. Why? Because there is something they are yet to know, there is something they are yet to appreciate. Most times we compare ourselves with others. If this person is able to do this, why am I not doing it? If this person has achieved this, why am I not achieving it? Mostly it's because we don't understand ourselves. We don't know the people we are. And somebody said, I think self-awareness is probably the most important thing towards being a champion. If you're going to be a champion, and we know a number of champions, and you people are among them. By the way, in studies, I loved telling students and learners at various levels that if you don't understand yourself, you will not even know how much revision you need to do. I wasn't a very good example to a number of people because I'm the type who can't read the whole day. I would wake up in the morning and I have several activities. I used to run a business in my hostel, which I will talk about at some point. And I had all these other leadership roles and I would attend activities everywhere. So I leave, I start doing all these other things in the morning. I leave people studying, I come back, people are still studying, and I wonder, how do they do it? I can't concentrate studying something for 3 hours, but some people do it for a whole day. But I realized if they don't do that, they may fail. I don't do that, but I won't fail. I will always pass because we are two different people. The moment you understand yourself, you are on your way to greatness. And that's why it's important for us today to do some self-evaluation, to be able to understand what about me. By the way, if you think about it, you realize that the person you were when you were young is really not the person you are today. So it's good to know self-awareness gives you the capacity to learn from your mistakes, and everyone should be doing mistakes, should be committing some mistakes, because otherwise you are staying perfect. When you are perfect, you don't learn. But when you commit enough of them, you don't repeat the same. You did this, you learned. You did this, you learned. You did this, you learned. I like saying that if you can repeat the same thing over and over again, the same mistake, there is something wrong with you. So we learn from our mistakes as well as from our successes. From experience, I've learned that most people don't learn from success. Most people learn from failure. Most people learn when they are on the way down, not on the way up. You don't learn when you are being glorified, you're being praised, when you are the star, you're ahead of the pack. You always learn when you are hurt, when you have some terrible times in your life. Like right now, during this COVID, lots of people are learning. They are becoming innovative, initiating new ideas and things like that. And for that reason, I love telling people to embrace problems. In Chiromo, mathematical problems, we used to say, solve these problems or find solutions to these problems. It made me also develop some positive attitude about the word problems. So the question is, whom do you think you are? Who are you? This is something that you need to sit down and ask yourself. Who are you as an individual? Many people, when they are asked, they talk of their name. I am so and so, but that is your name. Yeah? We tend to think in terms of our body. Yes? I am the son of so and so, the daughter of so and so. I am a female or a male. Yeah? I'm a student. I'm this. We think physically. But from experience and study, we've been able to learn that we are more than just the physical beings. In fact, somebody says we are spiritual beings with physical experiences. Yeah? At another level, we say man is mind. You see? So we need to think deeply and ask ourselves, who really are we? Who are we? Who am I as an individual? Remember, no two people are the same. You are very unique from the other individual. God does not run out of ideas of uniqueness. So everyone is unique. Everyone is built differently, with different capabilities, with different thoughts and emotions, and we develop them also over the years. The question is, have you ever sat down to think about really who you are, why you are created, why you're here, why you're at this very moment, maybe a student in the university? What role are you supposed to play? You know, the way when we are building a house, we know we are building this as an office apartment, we are building this for residential, we are building this, and we keep them relevant to the task we expect to be performed therein. When we are building vehicles, we build them with capacity that we expect out of them. For example, a tractor will be built for tractor kind of work. We don't build it to do the bus kind of work or a bicycle kind of work. So every one of us, we must appreciate that we are uniquely built for certain reason, for certain tasks. And this we can only get when we start listening to ourselves and asking ourselves important questions. The first one I'd like to start with are values. At this moment, just take your time. You can write some of the things you value most. Just write maybe 3 or 5 of them. That should take like 2 minutes or 3 minutes. Think about them. What is it that you value most in your life? Yeah? Others value family, others value property, others value religion or faith, others value academics, others value, you can value anything. So just think about what you value. Others value trust in their relationships, others value the capacity to give to the society, others value education, whatever. Just note your top values. Some 3 of them, some 5 of them. What do you value most? Yes. If we were meeting physically, we would have people discuss this in some small groups and share their different values. And you will realize that what I value is not necessarily what somebody else values. Now, this is the beginning of conflict. This usually is the beginning of conflict. Yeah. I love telling people. Somebody once asked me, a police officer friend of mine asked me. This was after 2013. Was it after 2013 or thereabout? I think it was like 2014. She was asking. She was posted in Kisumu, and she was asking me, why are those people, when they go to riot, they don't fear the police? They just walk in and make noise and even throw stones. And you are holding a gun. You see, they don't fear being shot. I realized that most of the conflicts that we have in the country usually are value-related problems. A Luo in Kisumu thinks my life is more important than your property. But somebody else thinks my property is more important than your life. So what do I value? Is it my property or life? Or is it my life or your property? And by the end of the day, somebody feels like, you really can't shoot me because of burning something. Yeah. But somebody feels like, you really can't burn something and I leave you to go. You see, those are just conflicts in the values that we have. A while back, I was traveling by bus home, following the Narok route. And it was at night, so arriving at Narok around probably midnight, there was a young boy selling things, selling these sweets, whatever, lots of other things down there. And because I loved talking to such people, just trying to listen to them, I started asking him a few questions, talking, telling stories, and I asked him whether he goes to school. He told me yes, he goes to school when schools are open. And I asked him whether the business he was running was his. He was looking like he's a class 4, class 5 boy. And it's around midnight. And this boy is selling. And he tells me, yes, this is his. Then I asked him, then who does it when you are in school? He said he has some other friends who sometimes come to help. But then he told me he also had 60 heads of cattle. I was wondering, why do you have all that? Yeah. And I realized in their lives, they value cattle more. You'd rather take education. You'd rather take all these things he was selling, but leave for him the cattle. So other people will value cattle. Others will value land. Yes, you give them money, same amount of money. People think different things. Somebody will go buy land. Somebody will go buy cattle. Somebody will go for some trip. Somebody will go maybe pay dowry. Why? People have different values. Somebody will go pay school fees with it. So the question is, do we understand what we value? And do I understand what this person values? If you want to understand people, sit with them. Try to understand what is important in their lives. What is it that they value most in their lives? And that will always solve most of the conflicts. If you go to conflict regions, conflict-prone regions like the areas that have pastoralists and such cattle rustling issues, you'll realize that they value the cattle than the lives. So I'd rather kill you and have all your cows than have you and I don't have cows. You see? So you as an individual get to know that your background has formed some of your beliefs and some of your values, some of the experiences that you have. Keep that list. Other factors as I told you, we will need to be rushing through all these things. It's a long day. Is your background, your experience. You'll realize that your background informs a lot of your memory and a lot of your knowledge, a lot of what you know. And you see, what you know determines much about what you believe and what you think. For example, long time ago, when I was young, I asked my mother, what are these pieces of light in the sky? And she said, that is, it's God's blanket that has holes. So the sun rays are penetrating through the holes. Now those were stars. Now according to that, she could also have formed her own belief. I don't know whether she was just saying to please me or that is what she believed. But along the way I believed a different thing because I learned a different thing. Then I asked about the radio. I could hear people talking in the radio. And I wondered why we had to listen to them. Who are they? And why was it so important that we keep a radio? And I was told that those people are in the wires. And I kept wondering, how tiny could they be? What do they eat? Where do they go? Or do they shower? And things like that. So I learned that what we know and what we are today is as a result of what we think. Now, I'm talking about the formula you're able to see on your screen. This R is the result that we have today. The result that we are today. This is the person we are. Ourselves, we are as a result of what we think. This T is thought. What we think and what we do. What we've been doing all through, or what we've been thinking, that is what makes us. And so, when we improve in our thoughts, the clarity of thoughts, we improve in our level of knowledge, then we are able to even act better, we become better. Like right now, we are improving in our understanding about ourselves, in our understanding about everything else. That makes us better people, and we are better leaders. So thought here is made up of what we know, knowledge, and what we feel. Those are emotions. All these things contribute to the person we become. So results here is determined by our thoughts, what we think, and our activities. Those are the things we do. If you are going to be a successful student leader, then it will all depend on your thoughts and your activities, how you act. And your thoughts are determined by your knowledge, what you are learning, the technical skills, the soft skills, and your emotions. Yes, how you regulate your temperaments, how you regulate your feelings about other people, feelings about your background, feelings about yourself, feelings about certain opinions, political opinions, and all such things. And if we continue to improve our knowledge, that is education here, and our experience changes, we somewhat improve the way we think, the way we reason, the way we analyze things. And that determines how better we become, the type of person we become. So, another thing is our background, how we were brought up, our upbringing rather, how we were brought up. You see, if you are brought up in a well-to-do family, sometimes you don't even know that some people can lack basic things like clothing. And so if somebody is dressed in a torn trouser, perhaps you'll either insult them or get amused and laugh. But the guy is not doing what he really wants to do. He also would love to just do things aright. So all these things contribute to the person we become. And it's your you need to know that because you were brought up differently, the other person was brought up differently, you don't have to have the same opinion and rhyme unless through knowledge, and that is through when we improve in our thinking. This brings problems even in marriage and in all the relationships, because we are two different people. This person came from this background where there was maybe order. This is the time to get into the house. This is the time to eat. When people are eating, they've got to sit together as a family round the dinner table. But then somebody else is brought up in a family where when you're hungry, you go serve yourself and eat. There is nothing like you need to sit down, you need to pray and sit and whatever. There is no order in terms of this is the time to come in. When those two people come together, there will always be conflict unless they understand their background, unless they understand the way they were brought up. There will always be conflict because somebody arrives in the house maybe at 8, but then another one was brought up that at 6 you must be in the house. You see, another person is brought up that everyone can cook, whether you're a man, a woman, whatever, a child, everyone who wants food will go cook. But somebody is brought up in a situation where only only female can go prepare meals for the family members. So by the end of the day, these people meet and they have trouble. They are not working, they are not doing things together. You are going to work in some office maybe, and you will feel like maybe if you are a man, your female colleague is the one who should serve you tea. You cannot go serve yourself tea, and that becomes a problem. Somebody starts feeling like you're looking down on them. So things like that are very important. Think about your background, think about how you were brought up, the experiences you've gone through, the education you've had. All these things determine the person you become, the results of which you see in yourself. How you reason, how you think, and let nothing cheat you that you are always somewhat right. You'll realize that perhaps over 50% what you have are not necessarily truths, but just opinions that can change. It's important to put that in your mind. Think about it, reflect about it. At this point, maybe if somebody has a question up to that point, we can handle it. Then we move on to another section of the discussion. Otherwise, values are like fingerprints. Nobody's are the same, but you will leave them all over everything you do. Somebody said. This is what Mahatma Gandhi said. Keep your thoughts positive because your thoughts become your words. Keep your words positive because your words become your behavior. Keep your behavior positive because your behavior becomes your habits. Keep your habits positive because your habits become your values. Keep your values positive because your values become your destiny. I couldn't put it better. Anybody with a question with regards to values? Before we jump to the next section, we have consumed an hour. Yes, a question or a comment? I hope we are still together. Can somebody say yay?
Hello?
Yes, yes.
My name is Humphrey again. Thank you for the good presentation.
Yes.
We're still together.
Yes, I'm getting you.
Hello?
Yes, I'm getting you.
Yeah. My name is Humphrey again, and mine is a comment.
Yeah.
I think the way you presented is just self-explanatory. I like the way the issue is together.
Yes.
And it is straightforward, it's necessary, it's relevant. We value what you're giving to us, and I know we'll share with others who interact with all variety of students.
Thank you.
We'll keep on distributing this knowledge you're giving to us, to the rest of the team, and we will go beyond to high school and primary. So thank you so much, and let's see what the next segment contains.
Thank you.
Me myself, I'm satisfied and I'm okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sam. Yeah, let's move on to this section for personal branding. Why do you want to brand? The question is, what is branding? You are always branding. That's the truth. All of us are branding ourselves. Branding is that which people know about us. What we let people know that we are. You see, we are coming from what we really are. We are starting to understand the persons we are and whom we are not. But this is not necessarily the same as branding. Branding is now what people feel you are, what people think you are, the public image. And as a leader, this is something that is very critical. What do they think you are? Whom do they think you are? If people believe in you, if they think you have some values that are admirable, they will always follow you. If they think you are not somebody worth following, then they won't follow you. I don't know whether I need to give maybe a minute or two for somebody who wants to take to maybe go to the washroom. I think it's necessary. We've sat for some time. Just take 3 minutes, because it's 9:57 according to my clock, so that in 3 minutes, if you want to relieve yourself, you just do it, then you settle down and we move on. I think it's fair to do that before we move too long. This is adult education.